The sound of water from the shower filled the silence of our bathroom when I stepped out and reached for my towel. My body was still warm from the steam, my skin flushed pink, but the air outside was not what made me shiver. It was the look on Michael's face as he stood at the doorway. His hand was trembling. His knuckles were white from how tightly he held my phone. "Who is Daniel?" he asked. His voice was low, flat, dangerous in its calmness. I froze where I stood, dripping water onto the bath mat, my towel barely clinging to me. His eyes were not those of my husband anymore. They were the eyes of a man who had just seen his world collapse. On the screen of my phone was the text that ruined everything. "Last night was worth every risk. I need to see you again. Soon." I felt the blood drain from my face. My knees weakened. I could not breathe. My double life, carefully hidden, feverishly protected, had just exploded in his hands. Before I take you into how it all unraveled, let me pause to say this. Thank you to every one of you watching and listening right now. Thank you to my loyal subscribers for fueling this channel with your love and support. To all new viewers, I appreciate you deeply, and I cannot wait for you to hit that subscribe button. It serves as the fuel and energy that keeps this channel alive. And please, do not forget to drop your thoughts in the comments the moment this hook grips you. I promise you, it only gets deeper, darker, and more intense from here. I need to take you back to how it all started, because betrayal never comes out of nowhere. It begins quietly, softly, like a seed you do not think will grow. Michael and I had been married for 8 years. We had 2 kids, a house in a quiet suburban neighborhood in Ohio, and the kind of life people would look at and call stable. Michael was everything a woman could ask for: steady, hardworking, loyal to his core. He provided for us, he came home every night, he loved our children deeply. But somewhere along the way, I began to crave something more than stability. I told myself I was just tired, just stressed. But what I really was restless. It was at the gym that I met Daniel. He was new, lean, and strong with that confident kind of smile that makes you feel noticed even when you pretend you are not looking. At first it was harmless, just short conversations by the treadmill, passing glances in the locker room hallway. Then it grew into casual jokes, longer chats, his eyes holding mine for a second too long. One evening, as I was gathering my things to leave, he leaned close enough that I caught his cologne, sharp, woody, intoxicating. "You push yourself harder than anyone here," he said, his voice low. I like that. That compliment should not have mattered. But it did. It sank into me in a way Michael's steady, everyday devotion no longer could. Within weeks, Daniel had my number. Our messages started light, memes, inside jokes about people at the gym. Then they turned into deeper conversations about our lives, our frustrations, our desires. And then one night, I typed words that changed everything: "I wish you were here." He was. The first time it happened, it was not planned. Michael was working late. The kids were at a sleepover with their grandparents. Daniel came over under the guise of dropping something off. The moment the door closed behind him, it was like fire catching dry wood. His lips were on mine before I could think, his hands rough and urgent. I told myself it was only going to be once. Just one night to release all the bottled-up restlessness in me. But the thrill was addictive. Every time I went back to Daniel, I swore it was the last. Every time, I found myself craving him more. I became a master at lying. Smiling sweetly at Michael while deleting texts under the dinner table. Pretending to be busy at Target while slipping into Daniel's car. Sitting in bed with my husband, nodding along as he talked about work, while my heart raced thinking of the man who had just been inside me hours before. The thrill was intoxicating, but so was the danger. I lived with constant fear of being caught, yet that fear only heightened the rush. I told myself I was in control. I told myself I could handle it. But one night, I slipped. After another heated meeting with Daniel, a night in a cheap hotel room where I lost myself in every touch, every kiss, I was careless. I came home exhausted, my body still humming, my mind still drowning in guilt and desire. I thought I had deleted every trace, but I missed one message. Just one. It was the one that Michael found. That night, as the water steamed around me in the shower, I thought I was washing off the scent of another man. I thought I was safe. But the truth had already leaked through the cracks I could no longer control. When I saw Michael standing there with my phone in his hand, my world collapsed. My secret life and my real life had collided, and I knew nothing would ever be the same again. Michael did not raise his voice at first. That was what made it so terrifying. He just stood there, gripping my phone, his jaw tight, his chest rising and falling like he was holding back a storm. "Answer me," he said. "Who is Daniel?" My throat was dry, my towel slipping as I clutched it tighter to my chest. My mind scrambled for an excuse, a lie, anything to soften the truth. But the message on the screen betrayed me already. Last night was worth every risk. I need to see you again. Soon. I tried to speak, but nothing came out. His silence cut deeper than shouting. His eyes scanned my face like he was searching for the woman he thought he knew. And all he saw was a stranger. Finally, I whispered, "He is someone from the gym." The laugh that came out of him was sharp, bitter. "The gym? That is the story you are going with? After reading this?" He shoved the phone toward me, his hand trembling. "Last night was worth every risk? Do you think I am an idiot?" I felt my legs buckle as tears filled my eyes. "Michael, please, Do not," he snapped, his voice finally breaking, raw with pain. "Do not lie to me again. Tell me the truth." The truth burned in my throat. I wanted to swallow it down, to pretend, to deny. But there was no way out. My body shook as the words tumbled out. "Yes. I have been seeing him." The look on his face when I said it will haunt me for the rest of my life. His shoulders sagged, his hand dropped to his side, and it was as if I had stabbed him straight through the chest. "How long?" he asked, his voice so low it was almost a whisper. "Months," I admitted, my tears spilling. "I never meant for it to." "Months," he repeated, his voice cracking. He turned away, pressing his hands against his head like he could not contain the rage and heartbreak crashing inside him. The silence that followed was unbearable. The only sound was the water still running in the shower, hissing like a cruel background track to my confession. Then he turned back, his eyes red, his voice shaking but clear. "I gave you everything. I trusted you with my life, with our children's lives, with my heart. And you gave yourself to another man." Repeatedly. While I tucked our kids into bed. His words sliced me open. I wanted to scream, to beg for forgiveness, to throw myself at his feet and plead that I was weak, that I was lost. But I could see it in his eyes, there was no forgiveness left in him. Only devastation. "Why?" he demanded. "Tell me why I was not enough." There it was. The question I could not answer. Because the truth was not that he was not enough. He was everything. It was me who was broken. It was me who had craved danger, passion, attention that was not routine, not steady. It was me who betrayed him. I whispered, "I do not know." His face twisted with disgust. "You do not know? You destroyed our marriage, risked our family, and you cannot even tell me why." I sobbed, clutching the towel around me like it could shield me from his fury. But nothing could. The damage was done. Michael finally set the phone down on the counter, his hands shaking violently. He looked at me one last time, his voice ragged. "I do not even recognize you anymore." Then he walked out of the bathroom, his footsteps heavy, final. I collapsed onto the floor, my body racked with sobs. My double life was no longer a secret. It was exposed, bleeding in the open, leaving me with nothing but shame and the wreckage of the man I once promised to love forever. But the worst part? The consequences had only just begun. Michael did not sleep in our bedroom that night. I could hear him pacing downstairs, the floor creaking under his heavy steps. My body trembled under the sheets, but I knew there was no comfort left for me in that house. In the morning, the kids came down for breakfast, smiling, innocent. Michael put on a mask for them, making pancakes like nothing was wrong. But when his eyes met mine across the kitchen, there was nothing but rage and pain. The tension was suffocating. I could barely breathe as I watched him pretend for the sake of our children. Later that afternoon, when the kids were at school, he finally spoke. His voice was steady, but I could feel it cracking beneath the surface. "I want you out," he said. "You can pack your things or I will pack them for you. But I will not live under the same roof with a liar and a cheat." My heart stopped. "Michael, please, I made a mistake." "A mistake?" His laugh was bitter. "No. A mistake is forgetting an anniversary. A mistake is saying something cruel in anger. What you did was deliberate. 4 months. That is not a mistake. That is a choice." Repeated over and over again. I felt the blood drain from my face. He was right. And nothing I could say would change it. "Where will I go?" I asked, my voice small. "That is no longer my problem," he replied coldly. "You should have thought about that before you spread your legs for another man." The words burned like acid, but I did not fight back. I deserved every syllable. I packed a small suitcase that night, my hands shaking as I folded clothes into it. Memories of us flooded my mind, our wedding day, the night we brought our babies home, the quiet evenings watching movies together. And now here I was, reduced to nothing more than a woman carrying lies in a bag. When I wheeled the suitcase past him, he stood there at the door, arms crossed. His eyes were bloodshot, but there were no tears left. "Do not come back here," he said. "Not for me. Not for the kids. You can see them, but you and I. We are finished." I wanted to throw myself at his feet, to beg him to remember the good years, to remind him that I was still the woman he once loved. But the truth was staring me in the face. I had killed the woman he loved. As I stepped outside into the night, the cool air hit my face, but it did nothing to numb the ache inside. My phone buzzed in my pocket. It was Daniel. "When can I see you again?" For the first time, his words made me sick. I turned off the phone and shoved it deep into my bag. Because the reality was clear. Daniel was never going to give me a home, a family, or the kind of love Michael had given me. What I had thrown away was irreplaceable. The weeks that followed were a blur of silence and regret. The kids looked at me differently, their little eyes full of confusion. My friends whispered behind my back. And Michael, he moved on with a strength I could not match. I had gambled my marriage for lust, and the house always wins. Now, every time I lay my head on a lonely pillow, I replay that night. One text message, one careless mistake, was all it took to expose the truth I had been hiding. And once it was exposed, there was no going back. Because forgiveness was never part of this story. Only loss.